Welcome to this most recent edition of the Homelab series. Today I'm trying something interesting. So I was in California for a couple of days, and while I was there, I wasn't just playing with Ollama, but what I did was I had the idea of what if I took a model and made the output of one model to be the input of another model, and then had those inputs be evaluated and then decide which one was better, and then to have that keep reiterating until I came up with something that was considered the best model by virtue of being the best model twice in a row, or the best output for that model twice in a row. So let me show you what some of this code looks like. I've got all of these different things here. I've got test.py and test2.py, all these things. I set up a little Python environment. So what I actually have here is this is not my big fat machine that I'm recording on, but rather I'm remoted into my laptop that has an onboard GPU. So all of the things that it's doing for the computations are actually happening at the level of the CPU, not the level of the GPU, and I'm able to do that by running a very small model called small, SMOL, LM. So let me show you, because this is the fun one. If I do test 5, escape 1G to go to the top line. So this is what it's doing. In this generate response, right? It executes an AI model using Ollama from the command line, because I was finding that the Ollama library wasn't working very well, but I know it works well when I run it from the command line. So I'm using this whole thing right here. You use sub process and a bunch of different sub libraries from that, or functions and methods from that library, to be able to effectively run it from the command line, and then the output from the command line is saved in your Python script as that variable, which is super cool. This is very useful. You could just ask ChatGPT if you want to be able to do that in the future. You could copy this here, whatever else. Eventually I'm going to make this a GitHub repository when I work out some of the kinks. And then I'll post that in the comments. But there were a couple of things that I was noticing. I needed to sanitize the output, otherwise the input for the model would break it. So we had to take out a lot of those special characters as well. And then this assess output quality, right? So we're gonna have it say, okay, here's evaluate the following output, which is going to be our input for that function. And then we're going to tell it to provide a score from 1 to 10 based on coherence, relevance, and completeness. Identify areas for improvement. So give it a score and then tell the areas for improvement. And then extract the feedback. So where it has the word improve, we're going to take everything after that and make that the thing that we feed back into it when we iterate through. So what it's going to do is it's going to generate from the initial prompt. It is going to assess the response for quality. It's going to give it a score, and then tell it the areas for improvement and all that jazz, and then throw it back in. And so what's going to happen is, in this case, what it's going to do is it's going to keep iterating until the model itself says it is a score of at least 9. So let me show you what this looks like in practice. So we're going to do test5.py, and we need some kind of prompt. So maybe we'll make it something like write me a blog post about VPNs. Done. And then it's going to go ahead and generate the response, and then it's going to take that and it's going to analyze that. It's going to see if it's good enough with ways to improve it. If it's not good enough, then it's going to throw it back in with the original response and the improvements, and then let it iterate over that again, and then continue doing that until we get a response. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video here, and I'll bring it back once it's done. Okay, so it is done. So here is our blog post, the ultimate guide to virtual private networks for online security and privacy in today's digital age. I hate that phrase. That's such an AI thing. Online security and privacy has become more important than ever with the rise of cyber attacks, data breaches, and identity theft. It's essential to take measures to protect your personal information from being intercepted or accessed by third parties. One effective way to do so is by using a virtual private network. In this blog post, we'll delve into what a VPN is, how it works, and why you should consider using one. Okay, what is a VPN? How does it work? A nice little 5-step process, which I think is nice. Benefits of using a VPN. Anonymity, privacy, access to geo-restricted content, bypassing censorship, protection from malware and viruses. I'm skeptical on that. You could still download malware through a VPN. That's a non-issue. Okay. So choosing the right VPN, a bunch of stuff, pricing, server location, a nice little conclusion. It says no improvements detected. So it's exiting. Okay. So that's pretty good. And then so for the final response, that was the same thing, right? So this is what I want to see. So let's do, instead of running this through here, let's go ahead and take this prompt and let's run it directly on here. So instead of running it through the iteration process, what is the first one going to look like? And then we can compare and contrast those two. Ollama run small LM. We'll paste that exact same prompt in there. And today's digital age, part of our daily lives, how we stay connected, friends and family, access information, even conduct business online. However, with the rise of cybercrime, blah blah blah. So this is what I think is so interesting, that if we were to take this exact thing, and then so let me do this here. So I'm here again, just in a separate terminal, and I'll bump the text size up as well. We'll do vim test 5.py. What we can do is we can take this whole thing and we can throw it in there and say and tell it to do the exact same thing. So we can say, oh, it's not done cooking yet. This is running much slower because, like I said, it's running on my laptop, and it's actually only running. I can see the HTOP metrics right there. It's only running at like 50% ish. So it might even be able to handle a slightly beefier model, but I really don't want to push it too much because otherwise it might just come to a grinding halt and churn so slowly that it wouldn't be usable at all. I'm going to say evaluate your response in the following ways. And we'll see what it says. Response is coherent. It's relevant. Okay. Completeness covers all aspects. It says score of an 8 out of 10. While it's coherent, there are some areas that could be improved upon. That's so interesting. Why would it intentionally churn out something that it thinks is only in an 8 out of 10? And why is it now saying that, oh, well, it's an 8 out of 10 and it's also a 7 out of 10 and it's also a 9 out of 10? Like, something in this doesn't quite seem right. And it makes me wonder if I need to include in my prompt. So it's saying now that the score is 9 out of 10, I guess, is the final score. So I'm going to say, give me an overall score for the original post. Give me an overall score. Okay, so it's saying overall score 8 out of 10, clear writings, relevant topic, all these things. The reason why I'm showing this to you guys is because this is just a little bit of a look inside of my thought process for something that I'm still relatively new to, and how in the world of prompt engineering, where this is becoming something that is more and more important, it's good to open up the engine a little bit and see what it is that it's doing on the inside and how it actively responds to what it is that you're giving it, for the purpose of being able to for the purpose of being able to be more effective when you're using it on the job. So it's saying, okay, so it's an overall score of an 8 out of 10 is what it's saying now, and it had these weaknesses. So maybe we'll say rewrite the blog post, and I don't want to say beef up the weaknesses, but improve upon the identified weaknesses. Now, here's the thing. What's different from what I'm doing here and what I'm doing from my automated script is my automated script is actually rebuilding the model each time, and it is inputting the previous post with the additions in weaknesses, as opposed to this is all iterating inside of the same model where it has a recollection of what it is that it did previously. But now it looks like it's making something completely different. It's the importance of mental health awareness in the workplace. It's like, what? How did we go from VPNs to the importance of mental health in the workplace? So this is another thing to be aware of, because if you're doing these iterative things, at least when it comes to my script, by the time it was done, it gave us something that was effectively a some kind of iteration of what it is that we initially asked for, versus now we went from VPNs to mental health awareness in the workplace, and we're bringing in the WHO, and like, yeah, we got some statistics, and that's great, but it's like this was absolutely not the point of what it is that we were doing. So I'm gonna do one more thing now. I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do we'll get out of here, and we'll do Vim temp, and I'll show you why. So now we're going to recreate what it is that my script is doing for the blog post, and then choose and review FAQs, and then we'll do it like that. So then we'll go Control C, and then we'll do Control V. Okay. So we're there, and when you're in the Linux terminal, you do Control Shift C. If you need to do Control Shift C if you're trying to copy, and Control Shift V if you're in the acting in the Bash terminal. You can do Control V if you're in the if you're in a Vim file. So let's take a look. So what it's saying here, writing clear, concise, and then weaknesses. And then we're going to say these are the areas, the identified areas for improvement. So we'll do Control Shift C. So maybe we'll give this a little start here. We'll go home. There's my home button. And we will say, this is the initial blog post, and then at the bottom, so we can do escape capital G, and then do escape O, and then we'll insert, and then we can go through and copy our weaknesses and say these were the identified weaknesses. And then we'll say write an updated version of this post that addresses the weaknesses. Okay. Escape :W2, and then we'll cat temp. And then I'll go through, and then I will copy this. Control Shift C. And now we're here. We're going to paste this whole big fat fatty and then see what it does. So what we're trying to do now is we're trying to see what it is that our model is actually doing and what it is that we've put in our script to see if that part is working correctly or if we need to go back through and make iterations to the model. Oh, okay, let's see. Protecting your online identity and freedom. Again, in today's digital age, of course. And then once this has finished cooking, we'll say give it an overall score out of 10 and identify any other potential weaknesses. And hopefully it then looks at this and says, yeah, I think we've done a good job. And then I think would be really interesting would be to compare this to what our initial output was, and then see. It was what we were trying to do the first time, but then somehow we went from VPNs to mental health. I will say also, because I'm working on such a small model, I've found that larger models tend to be more reliable. Not all the time. And there's certainly like diminishing returns that happen to that, but I do tend to see that happens. Like you take a look at ChatGPT and it does not have these kinds of issues at all. So now we say, give this an overall score out of 10 and identify areas for improvement. And then we'll see what it says. You know what else I think would be really interesting to try? And this maybe be the next thing that we do. We'll say make a VPN guide that you give an overall score of that you would give an overall score of 5 out of 10. And then take that and then throw it into a new model and then see, what do you rate this score, to see if it has its own logical consistency. Oh, that's interesting. Weaknesses, speed, that it doesn't actually mention that in there. Okay, maybe we're on to something here, because that's actually really interesting. That's something I hadn't even thought of. Lack of transparency. Wow. I think that could actually be a really interesting consideration for something to add into an article, and something I wouldn't even have thought of on my own. Even though that's very much true. So let's do that again. So let's take this here. We're just going to go back through and do the same thing. So let's do rm temp. Ooh, that almost ended badly. And then we'll vim temp and we'll say, here is the initial blog post. And then we'll say, here were the identified weaknesses. And then we'll go through and find these identified weaknesses and areas for improvement. And then see, incorporate in, and then we'll say, write a new blog post addresses these weaknesses and areas for improvement. And then escape :WQ. We'll cat temp again. And then we'll shut down the old model. We'll throw this in, and then we'll see what it does. Oh, actually, you know what? And then I'll say, also, we're going to say, finally, give this an overall score out of 10, and give this an overall score out of 10, and potential areas for improvement. Okay. And now we'll do this. And then I think at the very end, we may actually end up with something good. Because this is really what iterative modeling is supposed to be. Iterative modeling is supposed to be something where it really does get better each time. So you have some guys like Brian Romel, who I've actually known him for a long time, and I've spoken with him personally on the phone. He's been doing this for literally decades, and he'll do this, but at a great scale, where he's figured out how to take 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of these models, and then take them and all have the outputs of one be the inputs of another, and so they'll just all be churning and doing this whole thing. Oh, look at this! See, this one actually broke it, so I need to readdress this, because now it's saying what are the weaknesses of a VPN, which is not necessarily the purpose. While that is an interesting idea, let's take out this section, and we'll just leave the areas for improvement, and then we'll run it again. But anyway, yeah, Brian Romel's been doing this for forever, and so you take a look at guys like that, and this is just such a poor comparison to what guys who are truly professionals are doing. But the difference is you may not have access to those kinds of hardware and the know-how to be able to do this, but anybody can install Ollama, right? The more that you can go through and learn these individual skills just by playing around in a test environment like this, I think the better off you're going to be. Okay, so we have our updated blog post, of course, in today's digital age. Okay. What is a VPN? Very good. How does it work? Well, all that's good. That's what we had initially. Wonder if it's going to actually throw in considerations for potential downsides. So we have benefits of a VPN, which is good. If we get into potential negatives, then I think it's really onto something, and we'll have come up with it on its own, versus us having to spoon feed it and say, here's what you should be looking for. I don't know that it's going to, because it went straight back into choosing the right. Yeah, it didn't. So my guess is it's not gonna give it an overall score. It didn't give it an overall score out of 10, and identify areas of improvement. Yeah, it keeps giving it an 8 out of 10. Okay. So now we're going to try something different. Now I'm going to say, write me a blog post about VPNs that you would give an overall score of 5 out of 10 for accuracy, writing style, and coherence. With a view of the 5 out of 10. That's funny. Okay, let's see. Benefits is doing the exact same thing. Here's the other thing, though. This is such a small model that I think the knowledge base that it's actually working on is so one-dimensional. I don't know that it knows how to deviate from that. So I don't know that it can identify how to write better or worse. but rather I think it looks like it just kind of has one mode of how it is that it's going. Um, and so regardless of what it is that, oh, look at, now it's throwing in references. Super weird. And so it's just, and so I think it's just doing like the only thing that it knows how to do instead of writing better or worse, versus if we were to do this with ChatGPT, it would absolutely be able to do that. So now we're going to do this one more time. So we're going to rm temp, and we're going to vim temp, and we're going to say, here's the initial blog post. We'll paste that in. And we will say, give this blog post an overall score out of 10. Cat temp. And this will be the last thing, because I should probably get a couple hours of sleep at some point. It's currently, almost 6 in the morning here. But I've just been having too much fun to go to sleep. And if you're like that sometimes, then maybe this is the industry for you as well. Oh, wow. It actually did give it a 5 out of 10. Covering the benefits at times. This article provides valuable insights. You know why though? Hold on. I made a dumb mistake. It's because it said here, it's because it's a comprehensive review with a score of 5 out of 10. If we take that out, because we're telling it what the score should be, so if we take that out, I bet it's gonna actually, I bet it's gonna give it a much better score than that, because this looks very similar to its previous writing, even though we said write it with an overall score of 5 out of 10. So I think if we just take that part out, I don't think there's any other little Easter eggs in there. Let's see. Okay. It did not give that a score at all. Why? Maybe I'll say, okay, we'll try it this way. So escape G. Okay, and then we'll do. Okay, we'll do that. And let's say give this an overall score out of 10. I really need to figure out how to turn off that beetle-doo. Okay. Okay, this is the last one, and I think this is gonna work. Run Ollama. We'll say give it an overall score out of 10, and we'll see what it does. My guess is it also gives it an 8, because I don't think this has the true capacity to really think. I hope this blog post helps. Come on, give it a score, man. Like, okay, hold on. Can you score this blog post out of 10? Here's the score, overall score, 8 out of 10. Right, and it gives strengths and probably goes into like weaknesses and things like that. So notice even when we took this model and we said, hey, we want you to only write it at a level of 5 out of 10, it still wrote something comparable to something that's an 8 out of 10. So in any case, I hope this video was as much fun for you guys as it was for me. If you guys have any input for future topics that you want to see, let me know in the comments, and I will see you in the next one.